The afternoon sun blazed down relentlessly on the gas station, casting long, sharp shadows over the concrete lot. The hum of air conditioners and the faint hiss of fuel pumps were the only background noises, until the screech of tires broke the calm. A sleek black sports car skidded to a stop, and its young driver, a teen with a defiant glare and fists clenched tight, jumped out. He was frustrated, his temper bubbling over. Just moments ago, a car had cut him off on the road, causing him to slam on his brakes. Now, he was at the gas station, still simmering with anger, and ready to confront anyone who got in his way. Across the lot, near the pumps, a figure leaned over a motorcycle, checking the tire pressure with deliberate care. He was old, well beyond the teen's years, with gray streaks in his beard and a leather jacket that had clearly seen decades of road trips and adventures. His helmet rested on the handlebar, and his boots were scuffed from years of riding. There was something about the way he moved, slow but confident, that made it clear he was someone not to be trifled with. The teen spotted him and immediately assumed he was just another obstacle. "Hey! You're blocking my car," the teen barked, his voice sharp and impatient. He stomped toward the biker, fists trembling slightly, not just from anger, but from the adrenaline pumping through his veins. The biker didn't flinch. He didn't even look up. Instead, he continued adjusting his tire gauge, almost as if he hadn't heard the teen at all. That only fueled the teen's irritation. How dare someone ignore him? How dare someone take his presence lightly? "I said, move," the teen yelled, slapping his palm against his own hood in frustration. The old biker finally looked up, and for the first time, the teen noticed his eyes, piercing, calm, and filled with an almost unnerving sense of patience. "I'm just checking my tire," the biker said quietly, without raising his voice, but his tone carried weight, like a rock unmoved by the waves around it. The teen's face reddened. His anger boiled over. He didn't care about calmness or wisdom, he wanted to assert himself. Before he even realized what he was doing, he swung his hand and slapped the old biker across the face. The sound of the slap echoed louder than the teen expected, cutting through the quiet of the gas station. For a moment, time itself seemed to freeze. Customers at the convenience store turned to look, their expressions a mix of shock and disbelief. The biker's head jerked slightly from the impact, but his eyes never left the teen's. The teen's chest heaved. He had expected the biker to yell, to fight back, to retaliate, but instead, there was silence. A silence so heavy it pressed against the teen's ears, making him realize, almost too late, that he had crossed a line he didn't understand. Then, with the slow, deliberate movements of someone who had faced countless conflicts in life, the biker reached into his jacket and pulled out his phone. The teen's stomach sank as the biker dialed a number, speaking softly into the phone. "We have a situation," he said calmly, yet the words carried a weight that seemed to vibrate through the air. The teen's palms went clammy. He turned back to his car, expecting some kind of confrontation, but what came next was far beyond anything he could have imagined. From the horizon, a low, rumbling sound began to rise, a sound that seemed to shake the very air. It grew louder, deeper, until the teen could feel it vibrating through the soles of his shoes. Engines. Dozens of engines. At first, he thought he was imagining it, but then the unmistakable roar of motorcycles filled the parking lot. One biker appeared, riding with a fluid grace, leather jacket flapping in the wind. Then another, and another, until they came in waves, 60 riders in total, forming a circle around the teen's car, their engines creating a wall of sound that seemed almost alive. The teen's heart pounded like a drum in his chest. Every instinct screamed at him to drive away, to escape, but the bikers had anticipated that. They spread out, closing off any route, their presence dominating the space with an unspoken command, "Stand still and face what you've done." The old biker walked calmly to the center of the circle, every eye now on him and the teen. His face was unreadable, but his gaze was sharp, almost piercing through the teen's very soul. The teen opened his mouth, tried to apologize, but no words came out. Fear had taken over, rendering him speechless. Around them, onlookers began to gather, whispering to one another. Some pulled out their phones to record the surreal scene, an angry teen, a calm old biker, and 60 imposing riders creating a living fortress around a car in the middle of a gas station. And yet, amid the chaos, there was order. There was a strange sense of discipline in the way the bikers stood, engines still rumbling softly, eyes locked on the teen as if waiting for him to understand something bigger than himself. The teen's anger melted into confusion. He had thought this was about pride, about asserting himself, about being tough. But now, surrounded by 60 riders and facing a man he had just struck, he realized that this was about respect. Respect for experience, for calm, for strength, for the unspoken code of the road that he had never known. As he sat frozen behind the wheel, the old biker finally spoke, his voice steady and calm, yet carrying the weight of authority. "Do you know what you just did?" he asked. The teen shook his head, unable to speak. "This isn't just about a slap. It's about understanding the consequences of your actions. Every action has a reaction, and right now, you're experiencing yours." The teen swallowed hard. He realized that he had stepped into a world far larger than his own, a world where respect was earned, and where a single moment of foolishness could change everything. The rumble of engines, the piercing eyes of the bikers, the calm yet commanding presence of the old man, all of it pressed on him like a lesson he could not ignore. The teen had no idea what would happen next. He didn't know whether he would be reprimanded, humiliated, or worse. But one thing was clear, this was a moment he would never forget. The slap that had seemed like a small act of teenage arrogance had become a defining moment in his life, a moment when reality hit harder than any punch could, and so, the circle of bikers tightened slightly, and the old man took a step closer. The teen's hands shook on the wheel, his mind racing. He knew, deep down, that he was about to learn a lesson that no amount of anger or bravado could ever teach him. The rumble of engines faded slightly, replaced by a heavy, tense silence that hung over the gas station. The teen's knuckles were white as he gripped the steering wheel, his chest rising and falling rapidly. He wanted to speak, to defend himself, to shout, to run, but something in the piercing eyes of the old biker rooted him in place. The bikers had formed a perfect circle around the car, their machines polished but battle-worn, a testament to countless miles traveled and countless battles fought, on the road, in life, and in lessons learned. Each rider's gaze was locked on the teen, steady and unflinching. There was no anger in their eyes, yet the authority they radiated was undeniable. It was as if a silent law had been enforced without a single word being shouted. The old biker stepped closer. The leather on his jacket creaked softly with every movement, a subtle warning of his presence. He stopped just a few feet from the car and looked directly at the teen. His face, though aged and scarred, held a calmness that made the teen's heart pound harder. "You thought that slap was power," the old biker said quietly, yet every word carried a weight that pressed on the teen's chest. "You thought you could take what you wanted with your fists. But power isn't taken. Power is shown. Strength isn't in fear. Strength is in respect." The teen's mouth opened, but no words came out. He wanted to apologize, to explain, but he realized that words weren't enough. This wasn't about what he could say, it was about what he needed to understand. The old biker motioned subtly with his hand, and one of the riders stepped forward, stopping just at the edge of the circle. He knelt by the teen's car window, looking up at him. "Do you understand why we ride?" he asked. "It's not for speed. It's not for pride. It's for brotherhood. For protection. For respect. And sometimes, for lessons." The teen swallowed hard, realizing that he was surrounded not just by 60 bikers, but by a living example of discipline and unity. The realization hit him like a punch to the gut. He had walked into a world he knew nothing about, a world where one careless action could ripple far beyond his understanding. For a moment, he remembered the slap, how it had felt like a victory in his mind. But now, confronted by the calm authority of the old biker and the silent judgment of the others, that victory seemed hollow, foolish, even dangerous. The old biker leaned in slightly, his voice soft but sharp. "You hit me because you thought it was a game. You hit me because you didn't think about consequences. You hit me because you didn't respect the experience of those who came before you. Every choice you make has a ripple, son. Every action, a reaction." The teen's eyes filled with a mix of fear, shame, and slowly growing understanding. He nodded, finally finding his voice, albeit shaky. I'm sorry," he whispered. "I didn't mean to." The old biker held up a hand. "Stop there. Words are easy. Action is harder. If you truly understand what you did, then it's time to learn something more important than an apology." The bikers shifted slightly, their engines giving a low hum, a reminder of the presence that surrounded him. The teen's gaze swept over the circle. He noticed their differences, some young, some old, some heavily tattooed, some quiet and unassuming, but all exuded the same command. Respect was not optional. One of the bikers, a woman with silver-streaked hair and a confident smile, stepped forward. "We ride together," she said. "We protect each other. We uphold rules that go beyond the law of the road. You think hitting someone makes you strong. But true strength is controlling yourself, knowing your limits, and respecting others. That's what makes a rider, what makes a man. The teen's chest tightened. Each word cut deeper than any slap or shouted insult ever could. He realized the extent of his arrogance, the foolishness of his pride. He had acted on impulse, on anger, and for what? A fleeting moment of satisfaction. A sense of dominance over someone older and wiser. The old biker took a slow step closer, standing so close that the teen could feel the faint heat radiating from his leather jacket. "I don't hate you," he said quietly. "I don't want revenge. But you need to understand that actions have consequences. Today, you were lucky. Today, you were surrounded by people who could have made you pay dearly, but instead, we're giving you a chance to learn." The teen swallowed hard, tears pricking at the corners of his eyes. He had been scared, humiliated, and yet enlightened all at once. He realized that this moment would stay with him for the rest of his life. The old biker nodded to his crew, and the circle of riders slowly began to disperse. Engines revved softly, a symphony of freedom and power. The teen's eyes followed each rider as they rode away, leaving him alone at the center of the gas station. The silence that returned was heavy, but different now. It was not threatening, it was reflective. The teen finally exhaled, a long, shaky breath. He realized that the world was larger than his anger, and that respect could not be demanded, it had to be earned. He looked down at his hands, shaking from the adrenaline, and understood the truth. The slap he had thrown had changed everything, not just for the biker, but for himself. He stepped out of the car slowly, almost reverently, and approached the old biker. I really am sorry," he said again, his voice stronger this time. "I understand now. I won't forget this." The old biker studied him for a long moment, then gave a slight nod. "Good. Remember this feeling. Let it guide you. Anger is easy. Respect is hard. Don't forget the difference." The teen nodded, his heart pounding with a strange mix of relief and awe. He realized he had been given a gift, not a material one, but a lesson that no school or book could ever teach. As the last of the bikers rode out of the lot, leaving the teen standing there under the fading afternoon sun, he felt a strange sense of calm wash over him. His anger had vanished, replaced by a newfound humility. He realized that life was full of moments like this, moments where arrogance could be checked, where pride could be humbled, and where respect could be earned in ways he had never imagined. He got back into his car, still shaken, but wiser. The engine's echoes lingered in his mind like a lesson etched in steel and leather. He knew that he would never again take such reckless actions lightly. He had learned that respect was more powerful than fear, that calm authority could be more commanding than anger, and that every action, no matter how small, had consequences far beyond what he could see. Driving away, the teen felt a deep sense of gratitude toward the old biker and his crew. He realized that one impulsive act, one slap, had turned into a life-changing lesson. A lesson in humility, respect, and the true meaning of strength. From that day on, the teen carried himself differently. He spoke less, observed more, and approached every challenge with a newfound understanding. The memory of the biker's circle, of the old man's calm eyes, and of the rumble of 60 engines stayed with him forever, a reminder that life often teaches the hardest lessons in the briefest moments, and that respect, once understood, could change everything.